Welcome to the course Data Warehousing and Data Mining. So our today's topic is Data Marts. Myself Priyanka Gupta. I am working as assistant professor in Department of Computer Science and Engineering Data Science at Institute of Aeronautical Engineering, Hyderabad. So I'll cover the topics today. Why we need Data Mart. Although we are having the data warehouse, why different industry they want to use data marts. What is the definition of data mart? What is the reason to create, why we are going to create a data mart? What is the need to create data mart? What are the different types of data marts? So here in that, dependent data mart, independent data mart and hybrid data mart will be there. Hybrid is the combination of dependent and independent. So we'll start now. So why data marts? So why the business industry they want data marts? What is the need to create data mart where we are having the data warehouse? So in a perspective, in a market dominated, whether in the industry, the big data analytics is in boom, data marts are one key to effectively transforming information into insights. So what they are doing from using the data marts? Data mart is the small collection of data that is basically the domain oriented. So from there, the business industry manager or people, they can have the information, they can get the information, and after the getting the information, they need to visualize that, they need to plot that information into a useful insights. So they are going to plot that data, that information into the charts in the form of different tables, right? So that will be very, very useful for that business. So the data warehouse typically deal with large data sets. So as we know, in data warehouses, there will be the huge amount of data. But data analysis require easy to find and readily available data. So what it means? Although the data warehouse manager, a data warehouse analyst, they have to get the data that will be very, very useful for them, but that would be easily available, as well as that should be easy to find also. So that's why the different business and industry and companies, they are using the small part of data warehouse, that is nothing but the data mart. So on that data mart, that will be domain oriented, and that from that they can easily find, they can have easily get, they can fetch the data as per their need. So that's why companies, smart companies, they are going to use the data marts. So data mart is nothing but the small collection of data having the domain orientation, right? So in this figure we can see here there is data warehouse. There is a huge amount of data that has been stored into the data warehouse. Large amount of data. Okay. So from there, how the data marts will be created? Only from the data warehouses, the business industry, the companies, they are going to create a small part of data marts. That is nothing but that is also a database management system, but that is having the domain orientation, and that will have the small part of the data warehouse. So we can say a data mart is a subject oriented, that is domain oriented database, that is often a partition segment, that is a partition segment of an enterprise data warehouse. So what is enterprise data warehouse? That is nothing but the data warehouse. So a data mart is nothing but that is a subject oriented database that is often partitioned segment of an enterprise database. So that is nothing but the data warehouse. So the data marts accelerate business processes. They are going to help in the different business processes, and they are going to allow to access the users. They will have the access to get the information, that they will have the choice to get the relevant information in a data warehouse. We can say a operational data system. From the operational data system, from there in the old days they can store that data within the days. So uh, that type of data that will be longer than months, are we can say more than months. So the data marts are going to help the business process, business people, so that they can they can accelerate their data processes fastly by accessing the relevant information into from the data warehouse as per their need, in the form of additional data store, in the form of operational data store, so that can store for a month, right? So because of the data marts only contains the data applicable to a certain business area. So that is basically domain oriented, that is basically subject oriented. So it is a cost effective. Because of that, it would be the cost effective, and then we will very easily can process that data to gain actionable insights. We can get the trends. The business people, they can get the patterns quickly. So that will be the use of to create a data mart. So the subset of data held in a data mart typically aligns with the particular business alike units. Like it can have the sales data, it can have the finance data, it can have the marketing data. So that is basically a domain of a business. So the data in the data mart can as we can call as a subset of data warehouse, right? So from that, if we are going to use the data, that will be the subset of that data mart. So that data will be used as in the form of different fields, like that can be used in sales, marketing, as well as for finance. So a data mart is we can say it is a repository of data. That is a repository of data that is designed to serve a particular community of knowledge workers. So that is basically a data related to different business models that is going to serve a particular community of knowledge users, right? So data marts, they are the data marts that is going to enable, that is going to help to retrieve the information for single department. We can say in example, they can have the data from the different departments, or we can say the data from the different subjects or different domains, that is going to improve the user response time. So because of the business industry, the database data warehouse manager, they are going to install the data marts. So obviously to fetching the data from the data marts, that will take a less time rather than data warehouse. So that will improve the user response time also at the end. Because data marts catalog specific data, that's why they will often need a less space, right? So because of the enterprise data warehouses, so that I have said, because we are using the small part of the data, that is data mart, so the user will have experience of less response time, right? So that will make them easier and for to search and for to run their business, right? So that was related to business people. Because of data marts, they will have the easy response time, easily they can access, easy to use data they will can have. So Data Mart basically after and that will be focused only on particular function of an organization, and that will be maintained. After all, that is also going to be maintained as data warehouses. So that will be maintained by single authority, like we can say finance, that is related to if that is related to finance, that will be maintained for finance, and that will be related to marketing, that will be maintained by marketing people. So marts will be in small in size, and the flexibility, they will be in flexible nature. So that because of the data marts the data warehouses, they are having the huge amount of data. So in comparison with that are small in size, and that will be flexible to use for every users. So here the need come why we are going to create, what is the reason to create a data mart, what is the need to create a data mart. So first, it is going to create collective data by a group of users. So if we need to create, if we need some collective data at the end by the sum of the users, so the business users, the business people, they are going to implement a data mart. That is very easy to access to frequently needed data. If the data that is for the data warehouse managers, that is the data is going to be frequently used, so that will be very accessible by the data marts. So that's why they will implement that. That is easy to create, that's why that is that also improving the end user response time, that I have given an example. So because of the small part of data, the user response time will be less than the data warehouse. So that will also improve the their response time at end user. The lower cost than implementing a data warehouse, a complete data warehouse. So obviously the data warehouse, that is while we are going to implement a data warehouse, that will cost as per 1 lakh to 10 lakh. So if we are going to implement the data marts, that will be cheaper than that. So that's why also many business people, they are going to implement the data marts. The potential clients, they are more clearly defined that in a comprehensive data warehouse. So who are the potential users? We know for them that will be the more clear what the data they need, what is the data they need. So for them, the specific domain oriented data marts will be created. The data marts that contains only the essential business data, and that is less cluttered. So that's why also there is a need to create a data mart at the end. So there are many types of data marts, right? So basically there are main 3 types of data marts are there. So first is dependent data marts. So dependent data mart is created by extracting the data from the central repository, that is data warehouse. So in this figure we can see there the data marts are there. This is data warehouse. From there, small data D1, D2 and D3 small data marts will be has been created as data marts. The same process it will follow as data warehouse were following. So there will be the external sources. The ETL process will go between where it is transferring the data into the data warehouse. So as like that, the data marts will be there. The data will be stored onto the data marts directly. So first, what is the implementation process? First, the data warehouse will be created by extracting the data through ETL tools. So there is extracting tools, extracting and loading tools are there. From there, they can have the all type of data from the external sources. So after that, then data mart it will be created from the data warehouse at the end. The dependent data mart is created in top-down approach. So there will be top-down approach will be followed for to implement a dependent data mart. So in the data warehouse architecture, if the business users, they are going to create data marts, if that is dependent, so there will be the top down approach will be followed. This model of data a mart is used by the biggest organization. So if the business industry, that companies are very big in structure, so they are going to use the dependent data marts. So it is also known as the top down approach. That is the second name of dependent data marts. So there are two methods for building a dependent data marts. So one is where the users are able to access both the data marts and the data warehouse. So that is the first method. In that, the different users, they will be able to fetch the data from the data warehouse as well as from the dependent data marts. But in the other hand, in the second method, the one where user access will be limited only to the data marts. So from the data marts only the data will be accessible to the users. So there are these two methods to build a dependent data mart. So this latter method can produce what is commonly referred as a data junkyard. So the data junkyard is nothing but all the data that is not in use will be saved at a one place. So that can produce a data junkyard at the last. But as all the data begins with a common source, but it is usually scrapped or junked. So at the end, there can be a possibility there will be a data junkyard. So to form a data warehouse, a specific set of data is aggregated. So as we have seen, while we are have a small introduction about the data warehouse, we have seen the specific set of data will be used from that will be formed into a cluster. So from the warehouse, that will be restructured and then it is going to load. So by the ETL tools, the ETL processes will be followed for to extracting the data. Then it will be transform the data into the as per the use, and then it will be aggregated. So that's why we are going to tell it a restructured data. After that, it is going to load into the data marts. So it will be load to the data marts where it can be the end users, they can write a query to fetch any type of information. So that was the process how the specific aggregated data will be stored onto the data mart, and how the end user is going to use the different important information from that data mart. So it can be a logical view or it can be a physical subset of a data warehouse. So the first is if there is a logical view, a virtual table will be followed, a virtual view will be followed, that is logically but not physically separated from the data warehouse. So in the data warehouse, if we are implementing a data mart, so if there is a virtual view, virtual table, so that will work as a logical view of the data mart. If we are going for the physical subset, so data extraction, that will be the physically separated database from the data warehouse. So as per the, if data mart is implemented into the physical subset, the separate data will be used from the data warehouse physically. So there will be the granular data. So the lowest level of data in the target set into the data warehouse serves as the single point of reference for all the dependent data marts that has been created. So the granular data is nothing but the smallest part of data from the data warehouse from there the data marts can be accessed, that is going to be access all the dependent data. So the granular data will be used for that target setting. So second is independent data mart. Second type of data mart is independent data mart. So that is the independent data mart. It will be created directly from the external sources. So that will be no need to create a data mart from the data warehouse, but it will be directly created, initiated from the external sources instead of the data warehouse. So in this figure, we can see here the data marts, there is no instance of any data warehouse. So here the external sources is there, the ETL tools are there, and then the data marts has been created from the external sources directly. So that is nothing but the independent data mart. So the all the ETL process will be processed into these of the data marts independently. So the first data mart is created by the extracting the data from the external sources, and then the data warehouse will be created in the form of data mart that will be present into the data mart. So the independent data mart will be created, will be designed into the bottom up approach. So in the data warehouse architecture, if there is a small collection of data, so the independent data mart will be used. So that will follow the bottom up approach from the data warehouse architecture. So this model of data mart is used by small organizations, and it will be the cost effective comparatively. So as I have said, that will be used for the small part of data warehouse. So that will work as a independently. So obviously that will be the cost effective for all the data warehouse, all the other data marts. So that is very, very important. If we have to cut the business users, they have to cut the cost from the making the data warehouses. They have to make data marts, and they have to go for the independent data mart. So that will be the very, very cost effective for their small organizations as compared to other data marts. So an independent data mart, it builds without using a central data warehouse, and it will be ideal. It will be very, very ideal for smaller groups within a business, or we can say for the organization. Then the independent data mart don't have any relationship with the enterprise data warehouse. So there is no relation, there is no association, because there will be no any independency for the data from the data warehouse. That the data will be fetched directly from the external sources. So because there will be no relation with any of the other data mart also, we can say that will be separated from the data warehouse as well as from the other data marts. So if there is a small business, a small organization, they are going to implement a independent data mart that will be useful for them. So the data is the input from an external or internal sources will become for, and that it will be analyzed for performing anonymously. So after all, if the independent data mart will be implemented, the data mart will be independent in nature, and that is going to use the data directly from the different sources, internal as well as external, and then the business users, they can analyze the data as per the end users need, and then they are going to perform their relative analysis. So because of the independent data marts don't work as interact with the data warehouse, the users need a consistent and a centralized store of enterprise data, such as a relational data that can be accessed by multiple users. So if there will be a independent data marts, they are not going to work from the data warehouses. So the user will need a enterprise data storage, that is nothing but the relational database. So independent data mart is a stand-alone system that will be created without the use of a data warehouse. So some point of time we can say that is a stand-alone system, and that will be separated from the data warehouse, that will be focusing on the one subject area, or I can say business functions, the other business functions. So the data will be extracted from the internal and external sources, or we can say from the both, and will be processed and then will be loaded to the data mart. That is a repository, and where it will be stored until needed for the business analytics from the business industry. So the data will be extracted and stored from the directly input and output internal and external data sources. The independent data mart that are difficult to design and develop. So because of the nature that is directly incorporating with the external and internal data sources, and there is no any structure, there is no architecture how to implement the this type of data marts. So because of that, there will be no there will be the difficult there will not have any difficulty to design and develop the independent data mart. So there will be the easily dependency, easy to design, we can say opportunity. So the users, the end users, they will be able to access the data from the easy design of the independent data marts. The data marts, the independent data marts, that they will be beneficial to achieve the short-term goals. But we can say some of the times they have to manage each of its own ETL tool and logic. So as per them, they have to use their ETL tools directly, separately, as per the business need. For that, they have to expand and they have to become more complex. So that the business cannot have the complexity. So they have to manage the good like independent ETL tools for to manage these type of short-term goals. So for that, they have to implement a business model. They have to implement a relative ETL tools for that, so they can the data mart can be expanded, and as well as for the complexity, they can handle the situation. After all, the implementation of independent data marts will be is antithetical and the motivation for building a data warehouse. So there is no need to implement a big data warehouse. That will be sufficient to implement a independent data marts for the small organizations. So first of all, you need a consistent, as a business user, you need a consistent centralized store of enterprise data, which can be analyzed by multiple users at the end, and with the different interest, with the different needs. They want widely varying information, so they can have the access for that type of information independently. So that was the need to create a independent data mart, as per the that was also the difference between the independent and dependent data marts. So basically, the independent data marts that is widely used in the industry. So third one is hybrid data mart. That is nothing but that is a combination of dependent data mart and independent data mart. So this type of data mart will be created by extracting data from the operational source of the operational source, as well as from the data warehouse. So the data can be fetched from anywhere. In this figure, in this block diagram, we can see here the external sources are there. The ETL tool is there. The ETL process will be carried out here. There is data mart. There is data warehouse. So the data can be fetched directly from the Data Mart as a one path, and the data can be fetched from the data warehouse as from the second path. So two paths is there and one path is there. So the data will be the in the combination of these of the data warehouse and different external and internal sources. So one path reflects the accessing data directly from the external sources as well as from the internal sources. And second part that reflects the dependent data model of the Data Mart. So that the data will be fetched from the directly from the Data Marts. This hybrid Data Marts combines input from the different data sources that are not part of the data warehouse, such as we can say the operational data, and that is going to give the user ad hoc integration at the end as the result. So the hybrid Data Mart, that is also is a very popular Data Mart that is going to be implemented from the different industries as per their need. So because of their independency to the data warehouse and Data Marts, so there will be the availability of data from the each of the sources as well as from the external sources. The hybrid Data Marts require minimal data cleaning, supports large storage, and they are flexible in nature. So because of that functions, these are the functionalities the hybrid Data Marts are popular in use. The hybrid Data Marts are well suited for environment with the multiple databases. So as per the data warehouse is going to be used, so there can have the possibility of multiple database also. There can have the conventional databases also, and for the organization that they are going to require a quick response, quick turnaround. So that will be very suitable to use the hybrid Data Marts for them. So the hybrid Data Marts that combines the data from the existing data warehouse, we can say the other operational source system. So we have seen in the example in the block diagram, there was the combination of data there, that the data were from the external sources, that can be a operational source also, the operational database also. So there is a possibility the data can have the both of the places. After that, it is going to unite the speed, because the data will be available from one source. At the end, the data is going to speed this that is going to speed their speed and end user focus for a top down approach. So basically it will work as a top down approach in the architecture. So benefit of that top down approach is that the enterprise level integration of the bottom up method will be carried out. So the speed will obviously is going to enhance, and as per the end user need, they are going to focus onto the specific model of the specific need of the data from the various data warehouses and Data Marts. So that was all about the Data Marts. What we have covered, what is basically the Data Mart need, why we are going to implement a Data Mart while we are having the data warehouse implementation. So if there is a small business, they can have the choice, they can implement a small Data Mart. So we have also seen what are the different type of Data Marts, what type of Data Mart will be suitable for which of the organizations, and we have seen what are the different advantages from the Data Marts. We have completed 3 of the Data Marts. So for each of the Data Mart, we have seen the disadvantages and advantages also. This was all about today's lecture. Thank you for watching.
Like, share and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for more updates.